Thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast. Today, I'm welcoming back a guest I am sure many of you loved. I personally, it's up there with one of my favorite interviews. And you joined us previously, Bronwyn, but you're a psychotherapist, an author, speaker, and host of the podcast, Angry at the Right Things. And you help people understand that anger isn't something to suppress. And that is such a radical concept. It's a powerful signal pointing us towards what matters most.
Hmm.
Like, just think about that. That's huge. So, through your work, you've helped high achieving women, moms, and couples heal their deeper roots of anxiety, depression, and disconnection by reclaiming their emotions and learning to express them with compassion and truth.
Yeah.
And you're known for your bold honesty, your humor, and your ability to make the hard stuff feel hopeful and human.
Mm.
And this conversation is especially timely as we head into the holidays when emotions, expectations, and relationships all collide. And you're going to bring so much wisdom to what we're all experiencing, and it couldn't come at a better time.
Yeah.
So, welcome. Thanks for coming back. I'm excited for this conversation, even though it's heavy. We're going to talk about heavy things, but there's so much hope. I've been on a healing journey and, we're a product, our business, our life, our families are a product of the inner
Mm.
work that we do.
Yes.
So, so welcome.
Thank you. I'm
Yeah.
excited to address the heavy stuff. When you say this time of year, the first thing that comes to my mind is these expectations that we have without our implicit or explicit knowledge. Like, the holidays, there's just like this expectation. I don't know if you feel this, Angela, but I've always felt like, when you see a nice house and it looks warm and cozy, and you imagine inside there's like a family sitting around a fireplace and they're just like talking and reading. And I've always had this like fantasy, yeah, maybe someday I'll have that, and we don't have that. No one has that really,
Right.
especially when it comes to, maybe we can make that with our family.
Hmm.
Maybe that's a goal someday, but most of us don't have anything like that, especially with our own families of origin.
Hmm.
And it's hard because we want a cozy, warm place to feel welcome, to feel seen, to feel accepted, to feel approval. And most of us get very, very far from that. And this time of year is like that is what gets activated, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
Um, and so, it made me think maybe we should talk about expectations. And I want to say, like, we can do work around managing our expectations,
Yeah.
but we also need to do work around, maybe I should expect more than I'm getting.
Yeah. That is really powerful because we just don't realize how much we are subconsciously co-signing on a moment to moment basis.
Mm.
Like I grew up with a mother who had borderline personality disorder. And so I constantly walked on eggshells,
Yeah.
and I didn't realize this till decades later. She'd already passed on. And I carried that with me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I didn't realize, like, why was I panicking when I didn't have the perfect gift, or my house wasn't perfectly clean, or it wasn't perfectly decorated inside or out. I didn't have the perfect outfit on. I didn't send the perfect Christmas card. We didn't
Mm-hmm.
have the perfect outfits coordinating for the perfect family picture. So, yeah.
Yeah, like there's this implicit expectation that there is a perfect, because with a borderline, and a lot of us have borderline parents. A lot. I
Right.
mean, both of
Oh,
mine
yeah.
were borderline. And it's, most of us have at least one parent who is borderline. So with a borderline, there's no perfect. Like there's no them being happy for more
No.
than a few minutes. There's idealization, and that might last 5 or 10 minutes, but it's not going to last beyond that. And then there goes to devaluation where they're so unhappy. And as a child, even an adult child, it's very confusing because you're like, what happened to when you idealized me? That felt so warm. That felt
Right.
so good. How did I lose that? What can I do to get it back? Right. And
Hmm.
so it's on our end. We're thinking we did something wrong and we're not able to have objectivity and say, no, oh my God,
Right.
you're borderline. You're the one who's all messed up here. And there's no such thing as perfect. Like,
Right.
I'm never going to make you happy for more than, a short amount of time.
Right. So for all of those people that are trying to live up to these expectations that are either given to them by their parents or their friend group or social media or advertising, how can we begin to manage and start to be the driver in our own car of expectations and what makes
Yeah.
us happy and what's good enough?
Right. Yeah. And let's reclaim our lives by us deciding that for us and us setting those parameters for ourselves and not outsource that to other
Right.
people. Absolutely. Yeah. So what what should we expect more of? Maybe, you said like you're still kind of recovering from, walking on eggshells. Maybe like a really healthy expectation for this time of year is to expect that we have peace and we don't walk on eggshells for anyone.
Yeah, yeah, and not only that, but setting like how about like all the commitments that we
Mhm.
also think make the perfect holiday season, but
Yeah.
leave us absolutely drained and for many
Yeah.
people broke and
Mhm.
dissatisfied at the end of the holiday.
Yeah.
Like, what are some of the ways that we can reframe when we're in the moment and we think we're doing what we need to be fulfilled, but really we're not setting that for ourselves? It's somebody else's yardstick.
Yeah, so maybe we can, if let's say we decide that our, objective is to just have a peaceful, contented holiday season, and that's like number one. Maybe everything kind of runs through that filter. So if we need to do, if we feel like we need to do X because the kids want that, or that's because we've always done that, maybe we can run, like, take a step back and go, wait, wait, wait. Does X make me peaceful and content? Does it actually promote harmony in my children for more than, again, a few minutes? Let's think about long run here. Maybe they're thrilled for like that particular few hours, but maybe later they're not so great after that. They're drained. Maybe I'm kind of resentful because I just spent all this money and now they're being little poop heads again, so let's think long term. Like, is the end more peace, more contentedness, more joy, more harmony, or not? And we can really start evaluating and reclaiming that for ourselves. And maybe we can enlist our partner, maybe even our kids. That'd be fantastic to sit around and have a powwow in advance. Like, we usually do this, and I know your friends, they do this, and we always, feel like we should do this. Let's talk about what is the best for everyone ultimately. Let's really think it through together, and let's, maybe we can all agree on a few things. I can make some accommodations for you and you can make some accommodations for me. Let's make this a team effort as a family.
Hmm. Yeah, as you're talking, I'm thinking, wouldn't it be wonderful if like families sat together and like had their schedule and thought, okay, here's what we do, or here's what we, usually do every holiday. We make 12 dozen types of cookies. We send out these cards. We try to find coordinating outfits and do the family picture.
Mm.
We put up 7 trees, and dad spends a whole Saturday outside putting up lights. And for each of those things, think about how we feel. Do
Mhm.
we really need to do it?
Yeah.
Who wants to do it? Why is it important? And really like begin to like, for me, I don't do holiday cards anymore.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not good at mailing things. It stresses me out.
Yeah.
My kids don't want to be in a picture that we send to a bunch of people that they don't know. And
Yeah. So let's recalibrate.
right.
Let's take it back and, and then ask, like, because honestly, when you say all those potential things, I think most families, especially children, would really probably enjoy the sitting down and talking it through more than any of those other things. If they're
Yeah.
going to be honest, I mean, it's not
Yeah.
sexy. It's not
Right.
as sexy. It's not as like, stimulating, but in the long run, they're going to remember how good it felt to sit down and like have a family meeting and for their voice to be heard and taken into account. And that is, as a psychotherapist, like that
Yeah.
is what matters in the long run. Those are the real memories and they're free and you can do them right in your house.
Right. And, it was so hard before we realized that certain family members were on the spectrum, highly sensitive. And it just seemed like, why can't you just stay with us for the midnight mass and color your book and whatnot?
Mm.
But it made us have those conversations.
Mm.
And so, but warning, if you've never had those conversations with your family, I will tell you, you also have to be open to some criticism.
Yeah, maybe we should talk about that next.
Yeah. And so maybe setting some guidelines and talking about how maybe helping your family express how
Yeah.
they feel about, you know, certain family gatherings and situations. Yeah, talk about that.
Oh yeah, you just got my mind really going here. Yeah. So I will say, yeah, especially from your kids, you're going to hear some harsh criticism when you open that door. They're going to come right through it. Um, and that is hard. My daughter who's 21, she lives at home right now. She's in college. And I'll tell her like, Edie, I really want to hear your feedback, but when you say it that way, it just shuts me down and I can't
Mhm.
listen. It's too much. But I want to hear the heart of what you're saying. So can you rephrase that in a way that's easier for me to hear? And she gets that. We all get that.
Yeah.
So that's one thing we can just like lead with, with our
Yeah.
kids. And then really just to be curious when
Hmm.
they're giving us that feedback. Like let's say they say something that's it's harsh to hear. Maybe they say, Mom, I hate how we do Christmas. Like that's like a big global statement, right? And you're like, oh. But then if we could stay with that and be like, okay, because that's how a 10-year-old says things to their parent. Like that's
Right.
normal. But let's go deeper. Let's go, what do they hate about it? So
Hmm.
I'll say, tell me what you hate most when you say that. Like what specifically do you hate the most? And
Hmm.
then maybe what they're saying is, I hate the midnight mass because, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh, so it's really the midnight mass. And then what do you hate most about that? And maybe they don't hate the whole thing. Maybe there's a certain part that like can be, accommodated. So
Hmm.
just stay with it, get to the meat, get to the heart of their complaint. So stay curious, but you can also help your kid too. Just like, can you say that in a way like you can help them because that's good for them to have empathy for
Hmm.
you. And you can also model that empathy for them. You can say,
Hmm.
so what's hard for me?
Hmm.
And they're just hearing us, say that in a kinder way.
Right. Yeah, I think that that's so important. And we're really big about empowering and giving our children permission if a situation is uncomfortable for them, or they feel overstimulated, or they've just had enough. Like we're all capable of that. We don't have an unlimited capacity at any for anything. But we talk about strategies. If there is a situation that an activity we want to do that maybe part of it, like you mentioned, like it's too long or it's too late or it's too loud or whatnot, talking about like, okay, I am totally fine if at some point you just excuse yourself and go upstairs.
Mhm. Yeah.
And as parents saying, um, you know, defending that and saying, oh yeah, so and so is tired, so they don't have to sit around with the adults or do everything. But also, like, sometimes food is an issue too.
Mm.
So preparing that, like what they really like, because, in our experience, different family members don't like the same things, and that becomes a whole issue. What do you mean so and so doesn't like blah 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 that I've made for 30 years and whatever. And um so yeah,
Yeah.
that too. But, as we alluded to, when you're having these conversations and you open up that door, sometimes some angry feelings can come up, right?
And you know what? If and again, that is hard, but if we could see that, so as a therapist, my clients will feel angry with me, and it's not easy. I'm looking at them just
Right.
like I look at you. It's in real time,
Yeah.
and I have to take a deep breath, and I have to say, find out why, like show curiosity. What is it?
Right.
And also, this is a blessing in
Right.
disguise because if someone feels comfortable enough to express their frustration, their anger, that is so much healthier than letting it, go
Yeah.
under where it just builds up this resentment. That is
Right.
not good for them. That is not good for you. It's not good
Mhm.
for anyone. So, and our kids can help us just do that better for ourselves, for others, and so when we, I think as parents, when we show them that their feelings matter, kids learn that they matter. Those two things are one and the same.
Mm.
And especially when we can even validate their anger with us. That's when they really know that they matter. And a kid that knows inherently that they matter is going to grow up to be an adult who has the ego strength to walk away from the abusive partner,
Mhm.
to quit the abusive job.
Mhm.
That's what we're giving them when we teach them that they matter, especially by listening and validating their anger at us.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that that's really at the heart of this conversation and what's so beautiful about it. We're disguising it as, oh, how can we manage the holidays better for us when we're parents and we're building businesses and we're doing all the things. But honestly, when we get better control of how our lives we live them and what our triggers are, we're helping to equip and empower our children to do
Yes.
the same.
Yeah. And
So,
to recalibrate, because if we're
yeah.
recalibrating how we do the holidays, it models for them like, you know what? Nothing's written in stone. We can like change things as we go along. Like that humans, you know what we do? We make mistakes and we learn from them. And that's what makes us human. And that's a good thing.
Right.
And if we can't do that, that's just setting a really unfortunate precedent for our children.
Right. And sometimes you can do things when children are younger and the family dynamics are different and that just aren't the same or aren't as enjoyable as kids get older, and you have to be open to considering that and changing that. And I know some people who just have a death grip on like, we have to do this. I don't know if they would listen to this podcast because my listeners seem to
Mm.
be so growth minded.
Yeah.
but But if there's a part of you holding on to something so dear, like this year is one of the first years that my daughter's not in the Nutcracker, and she just said, "Mom, I need a break."
Mm.
That was really hard for me because I know she's a
Oh,
talented dancer,
yeah.
and but I had to deal with that myself. I had to take care of that,
Mm.
my
Yeah.
expectations, my dreams for her.
Yeah.
That's not my life to live. And I'm
Wow.
here to support her.
Thank you for giving that illustration, Angela. That is such a beautiful example of what is so true that, if we are, the truth is, as parents, we will be disappointed by our children, by their choices, by their behaviors, by their attitudes, by our relationship with them and the quality of it. They're gonna disappoint the hell out of us. And guess what? Guess what? That is their job description. A kid's job description
Yeah,
is to disappoint the hell out of their parents and be true to themselves.
right.
And the parent's job description is to know, oh, this disappointment, this is my disappointment. It's not theirs. These are my feelings, and only I am responsible for them, not my child. So you just like gave a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's super tough because it's like a tradition this time of year. It's just part of our life. But you know what? Oh my gosh, the free time that I have this year, that's
Mhm.
not driving her to dance practices and
Mhm.
managing her stress and going to get her food. And as much as I love her being part of that experience, seeing her happiness and her
Mhm.
relaxed,
Mhm.
and we can reflect on that time. If she wants to go back to it, she can.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there are so many things like that you just have to manage as a parent. And just, having a borderline mother, I couldn't wear the dress I wanted to my eighth grade graduation. I couldn't, I had so many comments at my wedding from my mother and my father-in-law. And, and I swore I would never do that to my children.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if you're feeling like that, you're listening to this and there's just something you're holding on to so much that quote unquote makes your holiday. Um, and you have to change and adapt some
Mhm.
version of it. Maybe take a trip to New York City and go see the Nutcracker or something. Find something that will fill you in a different way. Find a new tradition. So
Yeah,
so
and that new tradition might be sitting around and asking that kid, like, "Tell me more, help me understand how you came to make this decision
right.
and get to know you," because that's what the real gift is, us
Ugh,
getting to know our children. That is the gift we can
right.
give them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm able to spend so much time with her this year and getting to know her and her middle school years and what's going on with her friends and her life and that I might not have previously. All of our discussions were about how tired she was and how stressed she
Mhm.
was and you know all of that. So it's definitely different. But yeah, so let's talk about when that anger comes up and how it's a messenger and how we're taught to honestly just stuff our feelings, I think, in society in the US. I have lots of listeners all over the world, but we really are taught, I think, not to feel. And a lot of us were brought up by parents who are like, stop crying, just,
Yep.
what's your problem? Just, do the thing, make me feel better, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, let's unpack that because,
Yeah.
so we've all heard that, the old school, "Stop crying or I'll give you something to cry
Oh,
about,"
yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
So sad. And what that really comes from is, kid, when you're crying, I see you as a reflection of me failing, and I can't handle that.
Right.
I need you to be happy to reflect how good I am, right? That
Right.
comes from a place of deep insecurity where we see our children as mirrors of us, and that's a really
Mm.
faulty paradigm because really it's our job as parents to be mirrors for our children, not vice versa. It is
Yeah.
never their job to reflect our worth back to us. It is always our job to reflect their worth back to them by listening, by feeling, helping them feel seen, not by saying, "Oh my God, you're so amazing." No, just listening and being like, "Wow, that's crazy. Tell me more." Showing that we care, right? So, yeah, as we can find our worth, our value, not in our children, but really in ourselves, we're going to have to be the one who gives that to ourselves. And at the end of the day, we have to be our own mirror that reflects back our own worth and dignity to us. Know what we can't outsource that to a partner, to a child, to anyone. We can't. We have to do that for ourselves.
Yeah. Until that light bulb goes off, you're going to continue to, I think, try to be some other expectation or version that somebody else wants you to be, or live a life that somebody else has kind of handed you or you've assumed. Um, so that I think that that's so powerful. So part of that is kind of like, not kind of, but breaking a lot of the family patterns that have been demonstrated for us, especially at the holidays when there are a lot of family gatherings and things like that. So can you give us some insight on how we can become aware of that and maybe some of the things that we can do to break from
Yeah.
those maladaptive ways of, being part of a family?
Yeah. So I will say, when it comes to our own parents, all humans, this is all kind of just implicit or unconscious, but all humans, we do look for our parents to give us their approval. It's just how we're wired, even into adulthood, like way into. I've had clients in their 60s tell me how they're still looking to their mother. I mean, they themselves are grandmothers and they're looking still to their mother to win their mother's approval. And I'm like, wow, this just never goes away. Um, so we do tend to do that. We do tend to look to our parents to feel seen. That is their job, to make us feel seen. But most parents fail that, and I'm not saying they're evil,
Yeah.
um, but they just fail it. They're not good. They don't know how to make someone feel seen. They're not, mature enough themselves internally to do that consistently. So if we're going to see our parents, for example, or a parent over the holidays, I would start with like, okay, Bronwyn, I would just sit and talk to myself. I'd say, okay, Bronwyn, you're going to see your dad and you're going to want to make his eyes light up when he sees you. And you're going to, let's look at our patterns. Let's look at our past history. We're going to like, give him a hug, and then we're going to say, listen to him and show a lot of interest in him. And usually that makes his face really happy. And then we feel good because we're winning his approval, his acceptance. Um, but, he is a fickle, source of approval, really, because it waxes and wanes. It's not consistent. So, you know what, Bronwyn, here's what I'm going to do. I want to be that consistent attachment figure for you. And I want to help you feel seen by me. That's actually my job. And I'm not going to outsource it to a parent or to a child or to anyone. I'm going to do that now. I'm going to be that trustworthy mirror that always gives you a true reflection of you. And I see your goodness. I see the good, bad, and the ugly, but it's a net good that I see
Hmm.
because your heart is good. And that's all that matters to me, is what's
Yeah.
on the inside. And you will have my approval until the day you leave this earth. I will be your super fan sitting on the front row seat of your life, always cheering you on. And I'm sorry I haven't done that. I'm sorry I have neglected you. I'm sorry that I've allowed you to feel so alone and desperate to feel seen. But I'm here now, and I'm here to win back your trust in me. And now that you have me, you are free to disappoint the hell out of everyone else in order to be true to yourself.
I love that. And if you're in a situation where you have one of those family members or friends who you feel the need to have their approval, replay this section as if you're talking to yourself. You've got a script
Yes.
to begin to be your own super fan. I love that. That's that's just, and I know if anybody listening who grew up with parents like ours, that concept of being your own fan is you live for that approval of that parent so much
Yeah.
that the concept of being your own fan is non-existent.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that you gave us permission to be a fan of ourselves because that idea I think for many people is non-existent. Like they haven't even considered that or know the power of that. So
Yeah.
I love that. You can absolutely survive and thrive as your own super fan.
You know what? I left something out too. So I do these, I call them integration exercises.
hmm
And I do them with all my clients. But I do them on my podcast for listeners to repeat and do for themselves. And a really important component that I didn't include is, so I'll add this. So I'll say, Bronwyn, I know you feel a lot of shame because you're not seen consistently by our parents. And that creates a lot of shame for a child because a child doesn't have objectivity to say, oh, my parent is borderline or my parent's depressed or whatever. A child always concludes, I'm not enough. That's why I'm not seen. Right. And so let's take all that shame that we feel and put it in a big cardboard box, maybe two, and return those to our parents and say, here you go, mom. Here you go, dad. This is actually your shame, not mine. Because you not seeing me and giving me that consistent love is not a reflection of me being deficient. It's actually a reflection of your deficiency.
Yeah, that's an important point. Yeah, it really is. So let's talk about, I mean, I think that that is one way that we can begin to rewrite the story that we tell ourselves when we've grown up with parents like that and we're trying to live up to these expectations that just are never
Mm-hmm.
going to be fulfilled. So, I don't know if you have any other tips for learning how to rewrite that story.
Yeah, I have a really good other one. So I'll give you an example. So about 3 years ago was the last time I saw my father, and he's in his 80s. I'm in my mid 50s, and we actually took him out to dinner for his birthday, and we're there, and he's basically throwing a tantrum because something didn't go his way. And this was the first time in my life. So I was 51, but it was the first time I actually became a complete adult because in that moment when he starts throwing his temper tantrum, I see my husband like fawning over him. And that's what I used to do too. And in that moment, I'm like, oh, hell no. Those are Mike's feelings. And only Mike is responsible for his feelings. Mike has conditioned me my whole life to believe I'm responsible for his feelings, but I'm not. I'm responsible to him, but I'm never responsible for him. I am responsible for my feelings. So, you know what? I'm feeling frustrated. And so I'm going to go and do this right now and let Mike be responsible for his feelings because they belong to him alone. And when I said that to myself, it was so liberating. It was like I fully embodied my adult 51-year-old body in that moment. And it was like I kind of reclaimed this dignity, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And since then, it's just come so naturally with everyone else
Mm-hmm.
because I think I did it with the original person who taught
Mm-hmm.
me I'm responsible for his feelings. So that's another thing. We need to live within these universal truths. They're invisible. They're just like the law of gravity, but we have to live within it because it creates order. And if we don't, we're going to create a lot of chaos.
Mm-hmm. And it's probably also, I think it really goes hand in hand from my experience at the same time to be aware that we need to stop living this fantasy that they're going to change.
Yeah.
Because that's a dream world that we like to live in.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, can you talk about that and how empowering it is to come to that?
Yeah.
You can start living your life once you come to that realization.
Yeah. So it took me, until I was 51 to come to that realization. So I had insomnia for 30 years. Um, it was really, really bad. And it wasn't until around 51 that I started seeing the truth about how, abusive my dad actually is.
Mm,
We always, usually, most humans are okay with like throwing one parent under the bus because we know they're bad. But then we always want to see the other parent as good. And that's definitely what I did,
yeah.
where I knew my mom was super toxic, but I wouldn't let myself see the truth. Because then if we see
Mm,
them both as how they are, we feel too alone. We feel like an orphan. And I couldn't go there. Right. So as I did those exercises where I gave myself my approval, I
mm,
gave myself that validation, and started trusting myself and dislodging all the shame, I had this strength, the constitution to finally see the truth about my
yeah,
dad, not just my mom, but my dad.
right.
And when I started feeling that anger, holding him accountable with the anger, I'd write him emails and I would document actual things he had said and done starting at age 10. And I had to document for myself before I sent him any emails
Mm,
because my brain couldn't hold too many of those memories at once. I think it was too
mm,
painful. So I just made a Google Doc and I just documented. And while I would sometimes sit and read them all at once and just be like, oh my God, why am I still in relationship with this person? But my brain would never entertain those memories all at once. So when I consolidated them, when I made myself read through them, I was like, girl, you got to break up with your abusive boyfriend because that's who he is, right?
yeah.
So I started sending him emails and just being like, yeah, these are the things you've done. And unless I hear an apology and an admission and a commitment that you're going to become a safe person, like we're not going to have a relationship. And he, never took me up on that. But it takes time. It takes us integrating with ourselves in order to give up hope, false hope, on that parent being who we need or want them to be. And it took me that long. But the minute I started holding him accountable, I started sleeping like a baby. So for the last 3 years now, I mean, I take naps now, which I could never do. I'm off all the medications. I have no sleep issues. So, that's what happens when we start being true to ourselves is we
Mm.
heal, our bodies heal as well as our psyches.
Yeah, and it seems like so simple. It's right there.
Yeah.
Just coming to terms with what our emotions are telling us, like how we're feeling in the moment, and we just suppress it. And I think that that's such a powerful exercise because I know people in my life who have a hard time holding people accountable who are not good to them because I think they can't process all of those things in the moment and they just look over it for some reason.
Mhm.
So I think that that's a really powerful exercise. But I think too, it's important to there's probably people listening who are thinking about whether should they engage with certain people in their life that don't treat them well or don't make them feel well on a consistent basis. So, what helps you determine and how do you handle saying no to seeing that person? Because that's a really powerful, we've had to come to that
Mm.
point, and it's a difficult conversation to have with somebody who doesn't think logically and who's constantly trying to manipulate you.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think we can just start by paying attention to our body. How do I feel when I'm with this person? How do I feel before I'm with them? How do I feel after? You know, if we just pay attention to that and say, you know what, body, I'm sorry that I keep betraying you, that I'm not
Yeah.
paying attention to you, that I'm not doing right by you. No wonder you keep getting headaches. You're trying to tell me to stay away from this person. I'm going to start listening to you. I am going to prioritize you, body, over this person because you're my priority. I'm not responsible for this person. I am responsible for you. And I choose, starting right now, to first attune to you.
Yeah. Yeah, and that sounds easy, but somebody who has been through a lifetime of somebody manipulating them and on they're walking on eggshells, you become really disconnected with your
Yeah.
body. Um,
Desensitized.
yeah, I was it's been, for somebody who was probably in a functional freeze state for most of their life,
Yeah. Mm.
and to go, oh, this is what emotions feel like. This is what okay, I'm feeling stressed because of this, instead of just constantly feeling numb or stressed out or like you're not enough on a constant basis. That can be something you literally have to purposely check in with yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that's really powerful. So, do you maybe have a suggested script that somebody could use if they're in the situation where they feel like they should no longer engage with somebody, a friend or a family member, that in a loving, respectful way communicates how they feel and that they're not going to be partaking in any activities with them?
Yeah, I don't have a script for that necessarily. I think I would start with, maybe the script would start with addressing them, head on and just saying, like, Angela, I really enjoy your company, but, sometimes I feel like you just expect me to listen and you're not interested in listening to me. And if that person is responsive, like in a good way, you know, serendipity. Let's celebrate because that is someone who is a safe person,
Mm-hmm.
who's willing to hear us.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're not willing to hear us, if they're going to, make themselves the innocent victim and now you're the perpetrator, oh, well, I'm not perfect and you always blah, blah, blah. Like if they're going to do that, we have our answer right there. I think,
Mm-hmm.
for me, that's really what it comes down to. I don't expect people to be perfect. I hope
Mm-hmm.
people in my life push back on me and say, you know what, Bronwyn, this is something I would, my daughter certainly does. And I appreciate that. I'm learning so much about me through her, um, which is not fun, but it's good. But yeah, so if we can push back and if that person responds well, then that is someone who is a safe person. And if they don't, you have all that you need. They are
Yeah.
not a safe person. That's it. Game over.
Yeah. And I think we'd both give anybody listening to this right now who's feeling like, I think if you feel like you need to set a stronger boundary with somebody, that's your answer. And it's so hard for somebody who's in the thick of it, in that messy time of kind of trying to figure out their feelings apart from the manipulation, what they should do. But we would definitely both give you permission to set that boundary that feels right for you and keep setting it, until you get it where it needs to be. you know? So I think that that's really powerful. Because yeah, if you've grown up with parents like ours, you have no boundaries. You don't even like I didn't know what that word was until a few years ago. I was like, what? What's a boundary?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So, we've talked about so much. We've talked about our triggers and communicating and how to communicate and how we should perceive our anger and not try to stuff it, but listen to what it's telling us. We've talked about, rewriting that story of not feeling good enough and setting your own expectations. I It's a tall order. It's so important, but
Yeah.
I have looked forward to I've thought about having a conversation like this with somebody for my
Mm,
listeners for
mm,
years. I'm not even
mm.
kidding.
Wow.
So when we were able to connect, because it used to be such a triggering time for me,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was really difficult in managing being a mother, my own emotions, my business. It's such a busy time of year. Black Friday expectations. What do I offer? What do I do? How do I communicate it? I mean, we are juggling so much. So, how can we carry this new sense of integration into the new year? Surviving the holidays. How can we look to the new year and carry that new sense of self-trust with us?
yeah. Just one day at a time. And, like we have covered a lot, and I know it could feel really overwhelming for
Yeah.
someone who isn't, I think I take for granted. I have these conversations every day, all day.
Yeah.
But, for other people, they're like, what? So
Yeah.
yeah, just saying, what? Life is one gigantic learning curve and it never ends. And that is a good thing. And that's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing. And we learn from our mistakes. You know,
Right.
when something doesn't work, we learn so much. So there's no failure, there's just mistakes. And that's a success when we
Yeah.
learn as we go. So let's just keep learning.
Right. Yeah, I think just having that awareness and like you said, that curiosity.
Yeah.
That why am I feeling like this?
Hmm.
Why is everybody upset right now? Why are my children really antsy? Why are they crying? And
Hmm.
please stop apologizing for your children. Please stop. I hate it so much. They're children. And like you said, they're not a representation of our worth.
No, no, no.
If you give up one thing this holiday season, give up
Yeah.
that. They're
Yes.
kids.
Yeah.
But for moms listening who are feeling overwhelmed, trying to hopefully with this podcast arming themselves with some tools and some resources to take them into the holiday with more calm,
Yeah.
feeling more empowered, because the inner work, you know, it shows in our businesses, in our life. What would you tell them?
Woo. Yeah. So I like to just say, so I have a tree in my backyard that's 100 feet tall, and that is a flourishing tree. And a human who flourishes is just like a beautiful flourishing tree. They create beauty and habitat and refuge and shade for thousands of creatures and even other humans. And so when we start to be true to ourselves, we flourish. And that is by no means a selfish act because just like a tree, it creates a whole better world as a result.
Yeah. No, that's a powerful statement and it's so true. We're constantly trying to take care of everybody else's needs and we put ours on the back burner if we get to it at all. So make sure you're putting some time in for yourself, listening to this podcast on repeat, whatever you need to do, in a little whatever time you can carve for yourself this holiday and into the new year. Thank you for being with us, Bronwyn. It's been a powerful conversation. Like you said, We packed a lot into this, but I think it's so important. And I know there are listeners that needed to hear what we talked about today. Where can they connect with you and learn more?
Yeah, so my podcast is Angry at the Right Things. And yeah, feel free to do the integration exercise specifically that I alluded to. I think I did that 2 podcast episodes ago. So yeah, those are on there. And then I talk about everything that we brought up, but like in
Yeah,
deeper detail. Yeah.
you do. I've found it so helpful. I recommend it all the time.
Thank you.
I do. I seriously do. I'm not even kidding. I mean, family members, it's just it's a powerful resource, and I think that you have a really unique way to, it's tough to hear the truth. And
Mm,
you have a way of just telling it like it is. And so sometimes the truth is hard to hear, but I think
mm.
it can definitely get you on the healing path that you need to be on. So
Yeah.
thanks
The
for
truth
that.
does set you free, but yes, it's
It
not
does. It
necessarily
does.
easy to hear. Yeah.
All right. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being a guest.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you for
Yeah.
having me again.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Anytime, Bronwyn. Thanks.
Uh huh. Bye.